Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel, and today I'm going to go through and cover a $39 budget Hall effect keyboard called the NS68. It is being produced by Gamakay for a company called NaughShark. If I butchered that, I apologize, but they do have a wireless version of this board, and I would just keep your eyes on the wired, because I wouldn't confidently use the wireless for anything competitive. The board claims to have an 8000 Hz polling rate, but from my testing, it didn't feel as snappy as other true 8K Hz polling boards in my collection, so I can't quite validate whether it is true 8K Hz polling, but my theory is it's just 1K Hz scanning and still low enough latency, especially for budget gaming keyboards. Keep in mind the Wooting 60HE is still 1000 Hz as well. However, once you configure rapid trigger and snap tap, you can actually get this board to feel plenty responsive, and I was sort of shocked at the value it did provide. It's not the fastest gaming keyboard on the market, but it isn't really trying to be. They found a good middle ground between budget and performance, and I mainly tested the board in Warzone, but I did set some time aside for games that require a bit more precise movement, and I wasn't really struggling or complaining at all. I didn't feel held back or hindered by bad latency or poorly implemented features. Although, one of the biggest downsides for me was the sound of the switches and the feel of the spacebar, but I will give you a quick sound test before I explain. I'm not sure if the mic picks it up well, but there is a high-pitched sound given off by the switches when it rebounds up, and it takes away from the overall sound for me. While the sound is important to me for keyboards, we have to keep in mind that it is only $39. For my complaints with the spacebar, however, it is relatively mushy due to the foam they use under the spacebar paired with some extra stems under the keycap, intended to hit the foam to soften up that bottom out and to help some of that sound. But the end result is a softer spacebar that, until you get used to it, feels really dull, and I don't want to say mushy, but is leaning into that territory. Some may find a softer bottom out super nice, but it was something I for sure wasn't used to. Moving on to their software they have for the board, everything is laid out in such a way where you can navigate to what you want to enable, and I really didn't find any trouble getting my usual settings. I did my usual settings of 0.5 actuation for WASD, and I set rapid trigger to 0.2. They do have SOCD, mod tap, and undynamic keystroke feature and more, but not to mention, some reason they have AI helper built into their software. While the build quality is more or less what you would expect for a board of this price point, there's really just plastic. While the case is plastic, it doesn't really do too much for the board's sound. The case does hinder the overall sound of the board. It doesn't affect the performance at all, but that is something to keep in mind. In a world of gaming keyboards at high price points, well over $100, and in some cases hitting that $200 mark, the NS68 brings a level of good enough to where you're on a budget and can safely choose this board and feel satisfied. It could be a great gift for someone who's young or really doesn't need the most expensive or best anything. In games like CS2, I did notice the occasional overlap with snap tap. When I would hit D, it would occasionally switch back to A, thinking that was the last pressed button, but after a software update, this did fix it, and this is one of the really only few quirks I had with this board overall. That should do it for today's video. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching, and have the day you deserve.